Hello, and welcome to Pep Talks. I've been thinking a lot about the grace of God. This year I really am focusing on the place of work in our lives, the place of mission in the marketplace. And from 1 Timothy chapter 1, Paul writes this letter to a young man, 17-year-old pastor of a church in Ephesus. And he gives him a number of instructions, like this is an authority letter, right? Of course, in the second letter he talks about to Timothy and says, don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in life, in love, in faith, and in purity. But in the first chapter of the first letter, he talks about a number of things. One of them being just the amazing, abundant, altering, life-altering grace of God. Now, I want to talk to you about that in the context of work, because grace is not for lazy people. God's grace is not an excuse to not work hard. In fact, when you look at that letter, Paul talks about it in just those verses from 12 to 17. Paul talks about how God's grace had resulted in salvation, 3 S's, salvation. Second, in service. He had been given an appointment, a ministry, a calling because of that grace. And thirdly, that grace gave him strength. In fact, later when he writes to the Philippians, the church in Philippi, he tells them that I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. He was actually writing from prison when he said that. And later on, he writes to the church in Corinth and tells them, let me tell you something. 1 Corinthians 15, he tells them, let me tell you something. By the grace of God, I am that I am. By the grace of God, I am who I am. And he says this, but his grace towards me has not been without effect. On the contrary, I've worked harder than all the others, and yet not I, but the grace of God with me. My friends, we are saved by grace through faith. We are not saved by good works, but we are saved for good works. We are not saved to sit. We are saved to serve. Grace brings us to a place where we are so grateful for God's salvation, for his service, the calling he's given us, for the strength he's put in us, that we work hard. We work hard because of grace. We are not lazy as an excuse for grace. So go work hard because of grace. Not be lazy